They tell you to build a high fence and mind your own business. So I did. But somehow, I became the villain in my own backyard. What happens when your private peace becomes someone else's obsession? If there's one thing I've learned about neighbors, it's this. Fences keep out animals, not drama. When I built my dream backyard oasis, a small, private pool tucked behind a tall privacy fence, I never imagined it would become the center of a nightmare. I didn't think swimming alone in my own backyard would ever require legal defense or emotional armor. But then again, I hadn't met my new neighbor, Karen. It started with a fence and a glare. I had just moved into a small, quiet neighborhood on the outskirts of Lake Bidge, Azarina. The streets were lined with tidy, identical houses, mostly occupied by retirees enjoying their golden years. The whole area had a bit of that cookie-cutter look, like someone had designed it with a blueprint. But for me, that was part of the charm. I've been craving a peaceful space to call home after years of hectic city life. A place where I could relax without worry. As a 34-year-old freelance developer, I loved the flexibility of working from home. Being single, I found comfort in solitude. My favorite spot was the backyard, especially the pool. That was my escape, my oasis. No parties, no noisy gatherings, just quiet afternoons with a good podcast or the occasional floating device to clear my mind. In those first few days, I became familiar with my surroundings. I noticed her, Karen. She was middle-aged, probably in her mid-50s, with bleach blonde hair styled into a short bob. Her face was often set in a scowl, a look that seemed glued on from years of discontent. She lived just 2 doors down. From my yard, I'd see her out there almost daily. She'd be gardening, but I quickly realized she wasn't actually planting anything. She was always pacing, phone in hand, as if watching or waiting for something. Her eyes darted around, and her constant stare made me feel uneasy. She'd stand behind her fence, rarely moving, just observing. It was almost like she was studying me, judging my every move. The real trouble started on a hot Wednesday afternoon. The thermometer hit 95 degrees Fahrenheit, and it was perfect weather for a swim. I figured, what better way to cool off than a quick dip? I tend to be comfortable with my body and don't see the point in wearing a suit all the time, especially in my own yard. So I stripped down and, as usual, jumped into the pool. My fence was over 6 feet tall, double-paneled, made of sturdy wood. It was fully legal and installed with privacy in mind. No one could see into my yard from the street, and that's how I liked it. I was in my own zone, just swimming laps, enjoying the silence, the sun, and the peaceful solitude. Then, everything changed in an instant. That afternoon, as I floated on my back, I heard my gate creak open. I didn't think much of it at first, maybe a delivery or a neighbor walking by. But then I heard sharp footsteps pounding across the pavement toward my yard, followed by a loud, insistent knocking on my door. I tensed up. Before I could even grab a towel, the knob jiggled. I wiped the water from my face and opened the door to an angry woman. Karen. Her face was tight with frustration, voice raised with a dangerous edge. "You need to stop exposing yourself. My daughter can see you," she yelled, voice shaky with rage. I blinked, caught off guard. Her words felt like a slap. I looked at her and then quickly around my yard, confused. How could her daughter see me? I'd gone to great lengths to keep my swimming private. There was nothing that could give anyone a clear view in my yard. Fences, trees, shadows. I calmly said, "Ma'am, I swim alone in my enclosed yard. My fence keeps everything private, and there's no visibility from the street or from upstairs." She snapped back with a snarl. "We can see you from the second floor. You're parading around naked." I offered to make the fence higher, even though legally it was plenty tall enough. I explained I had nothing to hide and that my yard was private by law. But Karen didn't want to listen. She stormed off, muttering under her breath, "We'll see about that." Her words echoed in my mind long after she disappeared. Within days, her harassment intensified, hitting a new level of madness. It all exploded that next week. I finished up a long client call late at night, feeling drained but grateful to get some peace. The weather had cooled a bit, but it was still warm enough for a swim. I grabbed my swimwear, but I also brought along a Bluetooth speaker, some chill lo-fi jazz, and a cold beer. I enjoyed paddling around the pool, just floating leisurely, soaking up the quiet. I was in for about 20 minutes when I noticed something odd pounding at my gate. My heart skipped. Before I could react, the pounding turned into a full-blown bang. Then, flashing lights lit up my yard. Sirens cut through the night air. 3 sheriff deputies entered my property with flashlights, shouting orders. I only had seconds to process what was happening. I stood up, water dripping from me, a towel barely covering my body, completely stunned. Karen had called 911, making wild accusations. She claimed I was deliberately exposing myself to minors and even accused me of possibly filming inappropriate videos. Somehow, she had managed to sneak out her phone and snap blurry images through an upstairs window, poorly focused, but enough to stir trouble. Her evidence was shaky, but her claim was serious. My stomach sank as I watched the deputies look around. Luckily, I had installed security cameras recently. They weren't meant to record me. They were there to catch package thieves. But the footage turned out to be my best defense. It clearly showed me alone, swimming peacefully with no one else around. You could see my fence from every angle, and what she tried to do, she used a long lens to peek over the fence from her upstairs window, attempting to record me surreptitiously. My lawyer later told me that what she did could even be considered voyeurism under Arizona law. Her attempt to spy on me from above with a zoom lens crossed a line. It was an invasion of privacy, and her accusations held no weight. It took weeks of legal work, but I ultimately filed for a restraining order. The court deemed her photos illegally taken. Her accusations didn't stand up in court. She also tried to fight back with a counterclaim, saying I invaded her peace. That was shot down fast by the judge. Most shocking, her daughter was actually 23. The woman didn't even live there. Her story didn't add up. The HOA stayed silent through it all. Still, I noticed more friendly glances from neighbors. One neighbor even brought me brownies. Another apologized for not stepping in earlier. It turned out Karen had a history of causing trouble, although never quite like this. 6 months later, Karen moved out. Rumors swirled she was forced to sell her house, perhaps by the HOA or because of legal pressure. Whatever the reason, I didn't care. I focused on improving my backyard. I rebuilt parts of my pool deck, added taller bushes and trees for extra privacy, and reclaimed my peace. Now I swim alone again, sometimes with clothes, sometimes without. The best part? I no longer feel watched or judged. I finally have my sanctuary back. For anyone wondering if they can enjoy peace in their own home, yes, you can. Keep your fences high, your security cameras on, and don't hesitate to defend your right to privacy. Some people will go far when they feel they can control what isn't theirs. Stay vigilant, stay protected, and never stop guarding your space. In the end, I didn't just protect my property. I protected my right to exist without being harassed. If you've ever felt watched, judged, or falsely accused for just being yourself, know this: you are not alone. On The Mirror Moves, we share the real stories behind the fences, because truth deserves the last word. Don't forget to subscribe and drop a comment in the section below. We really appreciate and we'll see you soon. Thank you.